Into the whistle stop. He is the voice of the referees, Elliot. He is the voice of the players, Andrew, and I'm just a guy watching soccer. I'm Jeremy. Hi, everybody. So today, one of the things that has been quite controversial over the past couple of weeks, especially in the Premier League, we've seen several instances that have caused a lot of conversation, and that is with on a corner kick, on a set piece, the goalie, the attacking player, who's allowed to be where, what contact is okay. A lot of controversy we saw in the Luton-Burnley match that ended in a goal that was ultimately given. It was ruled on the field as a goal, but a lot of people on the replay saw a lot of contact and a attacking player really kind of making a point possibly to impede the goalie's movement, impede the goalie's path. Ultimately, it stood even after a VAR check. We've seen it in some of the other matches around the league. Elliot, let's just kind of start with the basic concept of the keeper. What are they entitled to, essentially, when it comes to kind of their office there in the box? What are they entitled to do, and what advantages do they have?
So the most obvious superpower that the goalie has is that they can use their arms in the box. No one else can do that. But apart from that, the good news is it's kind of simple. The laws are clear. Whether you're the goalkeeper or an outfield player, you can challenge for the ball as long as you're not guilty of charging or jumping at an opponent or kicking or pushing or striking. Any of those challenges, if they rise to careless or reckless or excessive, then that would be an offence. And then there are strict liability offences, which are impeding and holding, which aren't committed carelessly or recklessly. They're either done or they're not done. So that's the good simple news, is that the keeper can challenge for the ball as long as they're not committing one of those offences.
Andrew, this is a pretty controversial topic because a lot of people, obviously a striker feels that he's entitled to certain things. The keeper, obviously, as Elliot pointed out, because he can grab the ball, feels entitled to certain things. Why do you feel like this year we've heard so much about this topic?
Yeah, it certainly has been a fun topic this year. As a Spurs fan, it's been especially relevant to me. As Vicario's gotten into a few different scenarios that have been controversial. But for this year, what has changed? I'm sure a lot of people are thinking, like, what has changed? This is suddenly a big topic. VAR is extremely relevant to this because the protocols for referees have changed. We've already touched on this. This has been ongoing for the last few years now as VAR has been integrated. For this year, the protocol for referees is really to err on the side of let it go, and then VAR will catch it. And there's some good reason for that. A lot of times, the referee. There's so many people in the box, especially when we're referring to like corners or free kicks. So much is happening. It's very difficult for a referee to, in an instant, see what has happened in regards to the contact with a goalkeeper, and they have to watch all these players. So it makes sense that they're kind of relying on VAR. The issue with that, though, is they have to have enough evidence to overturn the decision on the field, and if the decision on the field is just let the play happen and essentially give it's suddenly, I feel that the precedent has been to err on the side of the goalkeeper. If there's any contact, you're going to give the goalkeeper the advantage. You're probably going to blow the whistle, free kick. Right now, because of the change in protocol, you're really kind of now giving it to the field players. You're saying, okay, we're going to let the contact happen, and we'll figure it out later. And now to overturn it, it gets really tricky because it's a very subjective law. Drawing that line in the sand is extremely difficult. So I think VAR is really a big part of why this has become a huge topic. I think an important thing to also point out is that goalkeepers, they have the advantage of using their hands. However, that also a lot of these instances that we're referring to leaves them a bit vulnerable. Because they've got their outstretched arms, they're not going shoulder to shoulder. They also have the challenge of trying to watch the ball, catch the ball. They're not really paying attention to what's around them, and it leaves them a bit vulnerable. So it's it's a fun one.
So obviously at the Premier League level, at the Champions League level, you have VAR. At all professional level, you have an AR. You have, you have help. At the grassroots level, in our leagues particularly, it's one referee having to see this kind of sea of chaos happening in the box and judge this. Elliot, what advice would you give to referees on how to best ref these kind of moments there in the box?
Angles are very important, and corners is just a great opportunity for a referee to think in advance what their angle is going to be, what their position is going to be. So when you have a corner, it kind of depends if you have assistant referees or not. So supposing in the Gotham League, where typically a referee on an 11-a-side field, even then will not have an assistant referee. So I think what the referee wants to do is to take up as a position where the intersection of the penalty arc and the penalty area is a good marker. That's a good starting point. And depending on exactly where the players are gathering in the penalty area, if that's the referee's starting position, then you can move slightly in or out or wider or narrower in order to see what you're looking for is the gaps between players and that fist that's trying to grab the goalkeeper's shirt. You're trying to see that space in between without bodies blocking your way. You as a referee, you want to avoid standing right in the middle of the penalty arc, looking face on at the goal. For one reason is you're more than likely to have a suboptimal angle of what you need to see. You're looking straight through bodies there. You're also at great risk of being in the way of a ball that's half cleared to the edge of the penalty area. The last thing you want to do is to be in the way of someone who wants to get a shot at shooting the ball or clearing the ball. So you want to avoid that spot. Prior to the corner coming in, good bit of preparation for the referee who wants to take preventative measures is while players are getting their positions right and jostling, just to be a presence and use your voice and say things like, "Keeper, I got you. Looking at hands here, make it clean, be fair," so that the players know that you're looking at them, and it just makes them a little bit more self-conscious. And that can have the benefit of avoiding the kind of contact that would then lead to a decision: penalty, no penalty, foul, no foul, goal, no goal. Doesn't eliminate it, but it's a good habit to get into.
So obviously that is when you don't have VAR at your disposal. We had a question come in from Peter L on our Instagram channel asking, with the present state of VAR, should it be expanded? Right now, it's basically it's offside, it's goal scoring opportunities, and it's potential red cards. Those are essentially the things that are being looked at and checked. Should it be expanded to more things? Andrew, let's start with you. As a player, as someone who loves watching the sport, do you want to see more VAR?
Oh man, this is a fun one. A lot of people listening are probably thinking absolutely not. There's been a lot of comments about how it's taking away from the sport, a lot of which I absolutely sympathize with. But unfortunately, it's difficult to put the genie back in the bottle, right? So it's unlikely that it'll go backwards. In fact, there's probably not a whole lot we can do to stop it from being expanded. I know Elliot has some thoughts on some more specific incidents where it can be expanded. In general, I'm curious to see if we can't use VAR more explicitly in terms of being the referee. These guys have all the perfect angles, better angles than these officials can actually have on the field. And what I would love to see is actually to expand them, to get them more involved and help the referee make calls in a split instance. and the part of the reason I want to see that is because there's way too much time spent looking at these reviews. I would love to see if VR can be expanded in a way that helps them make calls instantly, which just speeds the game up. As my favorite gaffer referred to earlier in this week, the sport can't slow down. All the other sports around the world are trying to speed up, and if soccer wants to remain relevant, it's going to have to do the same. So I think VAR will be expanded. I think it probably has to be expanded. However, it can't be at the cost of slowing the game down.
Elliot, your thoughts?
I agree with so much of that, and I do understand Peter's question. He's a referee I know in New York, so I know what he's interested in. So the idea of VAR is that it's maximum benefit with minimum interruption. And I feel like right now, yeah, we're maybe benefiting from increased accuracy in decision, but at the cost of the time it takes to get there. So I don't think we've quite cracked the minimum interruption section just yet. What Andrew said that was interesting is where a certain type of decision could be automated and taken away from the referees. Now, I'd be in favor of that, restricting it to the kind of objective decisions that can be made, which are ball in or out of play. If there's a little bit of software that's technology that's as reliable as goal line technology for the whole of the goal line, the whole of the touch line, and maybe that dynamic offside line, if such a technology exists and can be implemented reliably, then that's something that we can offload to VAR. What I'd be reluctant to offloading to VAR is the things that are still subjective. So whereas is a player in an offside position is an objective question, what is still subjective for the referee on the field is at what point does he become active? At what point does he play the ball, challenge for the ball, interfere with an opponent? And similarly with potential red card offences, serious foul play, violent conduct, I would still want the referee on the field to be making those subjective calls. They're the guy that's in the middle of it, handling game management, player control, their fingers on the pulse. And I'd rather the referee on the field had that responsibility rather than someone some distance away. So that's that's about speeding up the current jurisdiction of VAR whilst maintaining its impact. The only possible thing I can think of that we could expand the scope, the jurisdiction of VAR itself, and I'm not advocating for it now, but further down the line, they could look at maybe expanding it to yellow cards, or maybe the second of a player's yellow card. So right now, VAR can intervene with red cards, but it can't intervene with a player who receives 2 cautions and is then dismissed. So right now, we still have the possibility of an injustice where a player might be incorrectly given 1 or 2 yellow cards that VAR cannot correct. Maybe that's something that VAR could be used for, but again, not at the expense of maximum interruption. We still want minimal interruption.
I think Andrew had a good point with the putting the genie back in the bottle. I don't think we can do that, and we're already kind of seeing glimpses of it. You talk about goal scoring opportunities or goals being checked, and there's that thought line of when does that sequence of play, how far back can we go in that sequence of play to say, well, that foul was committed, so that negates now the goal. And I could see that be where that first bleeding out point of this VAR expanding at some of the top levels. If you see something dodgy, getting a little confused by what you're watching on TV or at your own game, send it in to us at the Whistle Stop. We'll chop it up. We'll debate it. We'll give you your firm, not so firm answer and get it back to you right here on the Whistle Stop.